If you think that you're just going to show up in Vietnam and just be able to stay out here and just pick up and move, that means you really don't have any idea what's going on in the country right now.
There's no way that if you want to get an easy visa as before.
Right. If I were to tell you how things were before the pandemic, you could easily be in Vietnam if you were an American paying $300 a year for a visa, the same as Cambodia.
We have the list of countries that you can apply for e-visa, and if your nationality is not in this list, so there will be a tougher procedure to apply for the visa.
What's going on there, Utes and Youngins? It's your favorite big uncle of expat relocation. I have got a lot for you today, guys. For those of you who are thinking about moving to Vietnam, this is a must-watch video. If you're already in Vietnam and you're dealing with any kind of visa craziness, we're gonna clear up a lot today. Most people know now that there is some kind of a visa crisis going on in Vietnam. But you hear all kinds of crazy stuff in Facebook groups and people who are talking as if they know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're just making people afraid and terrified. So today we're gonna try to get some clarity and some truth on what's going on with the visa situation in Vietnam. Can you tell me about what's happening right now?
Actually, if you follow the official website of the Immigration Department of Vietnam, there is a lot of change and the restructuring of the leader position.
Okay.
So with the new leaders of the Immigration Department, this person would like to make everything on the right track, like we can call standardize everything from the north to the south. So he asked all of the Immigration Department among the country to tighten all of the procedure and check the application more carefully when they receive the application and before they make a decision on which type of visa and how long it will be. So it's very hard for all of us, even the companies, the travel agent and the individual, the experts, to come to Vietnam even on tourist visa and extend visa during this day.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Yeah. So right now I've seen photos of lines at immigration that are almost 400 people waiting in line. Are those visa agents and like HR people from companies trying to get their foreigners approved?
Currently, with the new procedure, visa agents are not accepted to come to submit the documentation. Only travel company who would like to ask for entry approval for the tourists and the HR people from the company themselves come to the immigration to submit the documentation. And actually in Ho Chi Minh City, it is stricter than in Hanoi.
Interesting.
So, yes, so in case that we apply for the visa in Ho Chi Minh City, there is a huge wave that they change the place of submission from Ho Chi Minh City to Hanoi.
That's interesting because historically, Saigon was always the place that was a little easier to do something. So now it's the other way around. Okay, cool.
Yes, but if there is a huge wave coming to Hanoi immigration, so it will make maybe the leader, he will feel insecure about Hanoi, and then he will issue some policy to put some straight or some strict regulation for Hanoi. Then it's like there's no way that if you want to get an easy visa as before.
Right. It's getting crushed, basically. Slowly they're moving and making it, there's going to be nowhere to do this.
Yes.
Now, what about people whose documents are legitimate? Even they're having a hard time getting approved. So we're not just talking about people who want a fake business visa, but people who have jobs, but the job is having a hard time getting them approved.
Yes, correct. So now, for example, if you want to invite somebody to come to Vietnam for the business visa, the company needs to prove the purpose or the reason why they need to hire the foreigner to come to work. And even that when you have the 3-month business visa and it is going to expire soon, you need to prove that this person is going on the progress of submitting and applying for the work permits. Otherwise, there is no chance for you to get a visa extension for the business visa.
So even people who have real sponsor companies right now are having a real challenge getting their documents submitted. It's actually really hard even to get tourist visas for some nationalities right now. For example, South Africans, it's very difficult for them to even get a tourist visa.
Yes, correct. Actually, there is a policy which is not written. It is like a verbal announcement or information is that for some of the strange and sensitive and unfamiliar nationalities, there will be stricter consideration for renting the visa. visa. So for some of the country, even Saudi Arabia, it is very hard to get the entry approval for them.
Sure.
And on the automatical e-visa for the tourists, their country is not in the list.
Right.
So we have the list of country that you can apply for e-visa. And if your nationality is not in this list, so there will be a tougher procedure to apply for the visa.
Right, and yeah, I can help you guys with that, and we can work on that as well if you do have capital and you're from a country that has a difficult time getting approved. But bear in mind, guys, it's going to cost a bit because everything right now costs a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about the people who wanted to live here long term? You know, in the past they would use business visas. Now this is impossible. So what's the way forward? It's opening a company and it's getting the ERC. That's correct?
Yes. Yes, actually before they can extend the business visa so many times, even for a year. Like each business visa will last for 3 months.
Right.
Then they can apply for multiple business visa. But with a new policy, the only way that you can extend the business visa is to apply for the work permit and then gain the resident card, or you own your own business in Vietnam, like you establish a company of yourself and you that company to sponsor for you and prove to the authority, the government, that you are doing job in Vietnam. You will create job for the Vietnamese people and you bring money to us. So that's the only two ways that if you want to have the long-term visa or the resident card.
Right. Okay. So guys, at this point, you need to have a legal sponsor, and that legal sponsor needs to be able to prove that you're actually going to be employed for them. Now, it's Vietnam, so there's definitely, at this point, anything is possible. But it's clear what direction this is going. And it's not going to take long before all those loopholes start to get closed. Like he said, even if they start to move up to Hanoi now and it's a little bit easier, it's only a matter of time before they close it down. So what we can do for you is we can help you get employed, whether you want to do some English teaching or anything like that. Or we can help you structure a company. That way you can live in Vietnam legally. And that's one of the things that my partner here and I do for expats in Vietnam. I think it would help to explain a little bit to them about what is the ERC, how does that work, and what does that process look like?
Yeah. Okay, so actually to summarize the process, it seems that you will register with the authority that you will have some small business in Vietnam.
Okay.
And we are here to consult how to apply for ERC, Enterprise Registration Certificate for you. Like you want to open a coffee shop, we will consult how to ask a license or the registration for a coffee shop, how to operate with the tax regulations and other things. And of course, when you have your own companies, then we will consult how to get the long-term work permit or work permit exemption and the resident card for your type of your investment.
So the company doesn't actually have to do anything, but it just needs to be a structured company, and there has to be officially capital.
Yeah, actually there's no requirement that you need to operate your company immediately. It can be after 6 months when you are in Vietnam, because it will take time for you to conduct a market survey or do some administrative work that to ensure your resident status in Vietnam. Then there's no need that you need to operate immediately. But as I told you before, this is the most legal way that you can get the approval from the government to register for your resident or if you want to stay in Vietnam for a long term.
What does the ERC stand for?
It is Enterprise Registration Certificate.
And it's the same as a TRC basically, or no?
The TRC is another thing. TRC means temporary resident card. So there is 3 ways up to now that you can rent the TRC. The first one is that you marriage with a Vietnamese local people.
Sure.
The second thing is that you work for a company in Vietnam and they apply for your work permit. Then you will have the chance to get the resident card. And the last thing, as we are discussing about, is to establish your own company. You are the owner and the legal rep of the company which is established under Vietnam law, and it is your right to have the resident card here to manage and to run your business.
Guys, you're hearing it straight from the source's mouth. He just came from immigration about an hour ago. So, I mean, the situation right now, the days of just riding by on, business visas or tourist visas, that's pretty much finished. Why do you think the country's moving in this direction?
one of my assumptions is that during the last 2 years under the effect of pandemic, so many people from all over the world choose Vietnam as a safe place. And at this time, the procedure to rent a visa or the resident card is quite simple, and it creates some bad effect for the society, like the police could not manage the expat, and some of them stay illegally, and some of them did not pay the tax for the Vietnam's government, but they still receive the free vaccination from the authorities.
Right.
So with some of these reasons, so now the immigration department want to standardize everything. They do a lot of investigation, inspection for the past, and now they issue a lot of things to make sure that all of the incomer will follow strictly the Vietnam rule and like pay the expense for the country to rebuild the economy after the pandemic.
And there's two different factions that are sort of fighting at the moment, right? That's kind of what was explained to me, that within the government there's a bit of a power change that's happening.
Yeah, this is quite normal in Vietnam when you have the new leader of government department or government agent, then the new leader will want to strengthen the position and also want to make sure that he could control everything. So he will trying to fix all of the mistakes, the errors from the last period when he was promoted. So these things happen.
Okay, so this is a very complicated time for you to be trying to come to Vietnam. Now, I still think that Vietnam is a worthwhile destination. I just think it's going to become a place where you're either going to need to have a job and have a reason, which we can help you with. You know, the English teaching thing is still a possibility. And I just saw a note from the Department of Education that there's going to be a degree loophole that's going to be available for English teachers. If you're a native speaker, you're going to be able to do a certain type of IELTS test in lieu of having a degree. So that's actually very good to hear, because that means that Vietnam is going to remain open. It's just a kind of a reshuffling of how that procedure is going to work. But if you're a digital nomad and you're someone who just wants to live in Vietnam, you have wealth, you can get a better deal on lifestyle here, you like the culture, the food, but then opening a company is really going to become the only way outside of marriage.
Yes. In addition, which we have to face today, it is not the new policy and new regulation in the law. It just has been written in the law for a long time, but because of the management style of the last leader, so you will feel it very easy. But now, like the new one, he's quite strict, and you feel it's uncomfortable for you. But currently, they just follow the law.
Right. So he didn't write the law. He's just actually enforcing the law.
Yes.
And this is something that I think is really hard for people that are coming to Southeast Asia from like places like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, a little bit less America, because we're kind of fucked up. But like, you know, the more cleaner kind of things work a little bit better. It's very different here, guys. And you have to understand that if you're going to live here, you need to have sort of a flexible way of seeing the world. You can't be too like expecting everything to always go the way you expect it to go, because that's just not how things work in Vietnam. But usually there is a way forward. You know, since the whole beginning of the pandemic, I've seen the rules change so many times. You can do this, you can do that, you can't do this, you can do that. If you have money, you can still be here.
Yes, and one more thing is that you can find a lot of agents on the internet, like on some Facebook community. But please consider once you have the information from them, because as I talked before, there is policies for Ho Chi Minh City that there is no agent could come to submit for your application. So if you listen to the agent and he's told you that he could be able to submit the application on behalf of you, so is it really not true?
Right. Or you might have met the one guy who's connected enough to still do it. But in a few more months or another year from now, I don't know, guys. I think if you're really serious about being here, don't fuck around and just open up a company, do it the right way. Okay, so with the changes that are happening in immigration policy, where do you see this going? Do you think that there's a chance it could change back to the previous management style in a different administration? Or do you think that this is the future? It's just going to become more and more strict, and Vietnam is going to become a little bit more difficult to access.
Yes, with our 10 years of experience, I think this situation will last about 3 or 4 months, then everything will be a little bit easier for us. But this is maybe the new standard of the visa and the resident card. So we need to keep up with the new way of management from the immigration department, and we need to accept that from now on we need to choose the legal ways. It may take longer to finish, but it will be safer for you if you want to stay here.
Yeah, you'll have security. And I mean, if you really are putting up money, and no matter which way you come right now, it's going to cost money. If you happen to have that one good connection that can do something at immigration, that is not coming cheap. So you might as well spend that money doing it the right way and then have everything set up. And we can do all that for you. How long does it take to set up a company?
Currently now, the normal time to set up a company is from 15 days to 21 days. However, in some case, we could find a way that you can have your own company within maybe 3 days up to a week.
Wow.
But it's depending on your plan and your decision, which type of company you want to have, and we will help you to find a most suitable solution for your need.
Okay, and you guys are able to get these applications approved even right now, even with everything that's happening in immigration. So if you guys work with us, we got somebody who can get the application through, because even if you try to open a company right now yourself, you will have a very difficult time getting that application processed. I said earlier in the video, there's lines of 300 to 400 people trying to get into immigration.
Yeah.
And this is like every day.
Yes, and the funny thing is that first of all, you need to take the number first. And for example, last Friday, our staff come to immigration to take the number, and on the number they write the day to come again to submit the documentation is 5 days after.
5 days later.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, guys.
So you need to book the number 5 days in advance that you will have the chance to submit the application to drain the visa or the resident card.
So for people who are coming from strong passport countries, the process is relatively straightforward. US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Western Europe, Japan, it's pretty easy.
Yes, correct. Actually, we have the list of friendly nationalities.
Okay.
And for these nationalities, there will be not so many consideration from the officer. If it is a strange nationality, so it seems that it's 80% of rejection from the immigration officer.
Okay, so that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And now there's passports that are more difficult. Can we still structure companies for the Middle East, for Africa, for India, for places like this?
We still have, but it will take longer and it will cost more for these nationalities if you want to establish a company in Vietnam. Even for the tourists, with these nationalities, it's very hard for travel agents to ask for the tourist visa.
And guys, I hate to tell you this, but it's also very dangerous if you're trying to get a teaching job, because most of the places that are willing to hire non-native speakers are in really small provincial parts of Vietnam where they may be connected with local government, and if something were to go wrong, you could have lots of legal problems and you might have to get out of the province and try to get to a big city. I mean, possibly you could have your passport taken. So I don't suggest people coming from developing countries agreeing to come to Vietnam if they don't know who they're working for. And I suggest that even for people from rich countries. If you don't know the person who's stamping that visa, don't be just so fast to rush into a country that you don't know how things work. You can have a lot of problems here with blacklists depending on who you work for or what kind of agent you use. Can you tell me about the situation with blacklisting at the moment?
Well, actually, there's 2 notes for you from the immigration and even the labor department. First, for the teaching job, according to the new policy from the Department of Labor, War, Invalid and Social Affairs, for the teachers now it is easier that you are English native speaking person. Like if you come from the US, Australia, Great Britain, it's very easy for you to apply for the teaching job and get the work permit. But if you come from a country which English is not the mother tongue, the native language, it will be much more difficult for you to apply for the work permit. So this is the first note. The second thing is that for the blacklist, we talk about the new director, and of course he will not want to ruin his new position. Then if you hear some things about blacklist removal, then it's 100% it is not true, because everything has been tightened this day and there's no way that you can get the blacklist removal during this time.
Okay, that's interesting. So, but there's a chance that again in a couple weeks or months or once the dust settles, there may be a way to fix it.
Yes, that there is a way. For example, if you work for a big brand company in Vietnam, work for the embassy, for example,
right.
or you are a super large company, you invest billions to Vietnam. So in this case, you can be considered to remove from the blacklist.
Yeah, they're like most likely Samsung can get you out of trouble if you're having a problem.
Yeah.
And guys, whether or not it's opening a business, getting approved for a work permit, a TRC, employment, if you have a passport from a difficult country, it is going to be logistically difficult. It's possible if you have capital and we're opening a company for you, but if it's anything small, it could be really, really messy, near to impossible. Can you tell me a little bit about a situation like that?
Yes, we have the true case which we have to face with, and it's really sad for the client, and we're trying to find a way. Is that we have a client, his nationality is Lebanon. He's working in Vietnam for an oil company, which we consider he's a high class worker in Vietnam.
Yeah, higher status, sure.
Yes, he got his work permit and the resident card already, and now he would like to invite his wife to come to Vietnam to visit him for a few months. First of all, in this case, because Lebanon is unpopular nationality, so the business visa is not accepted in this case, we try to apply for 3 times, and even we are a big company, we have around 50 foreigners working now. We could not ask for the business visa entry approval for his wife. Then we think about the relative visit visa, and for this type of visa, it's required a marriage certificate.
Right, which would be in Arabic.
Yes, to show the relationship between the applicants, like the inviter to the invitee.
Okay.
And now it is the step that his wife needs to prepare the legalized marriage certificate. First things, it is in Arab, which needs the translation. At the same time, we will need the original version with the English on the paper, like bilingual marriage certificate.
Yeah, a translation of it, an official translation.
Yes, correct. And then get legalized. The sad thing is that even Lebanon, they has Vietnam embassy, but this Vietnam embassy branch, they do not have the right and they do not have the seal to stamp on the paper. Then she needs to send this paper either to Egypt or UAE, because they have the Vietnam General Consulate and they have the power to legalize the paper. This is the first thing. So it will take about 3 or 4 weeks to get the marriage certificate to be legalized.
Okay.
Then we submit for the entry visa, and according to the current policy, no visa on arrival is accepted.
Sure.
So you need to come to Vietnam embassy to get your visa before you book a ticket and fly to Vietnam. Then again, the Vietnam embassy in Lebanon, they could not grant the visa.
Right.
She need to travel the second time to either UAE or either to Egypt to book a flight to Vietnam.
And guys, I've had some helping South Africans who needed to go to deal with the Vietnamese consulate in Egypt. The chances of you getting a hold of a person and someone actually doing anything for you is next to impossible. You have to use agents to get things done there. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get any kind of paperwork even looked at. It's difficult to reach a person. I've worked with a few different African nationalities that are very difficult and had some interactions with the Vietnamese consulate in Egypt. So just, bear in mind that you're going under a process that's going to be full of potential problems, middlemen, risks, multiple trips. And even South Africans have to apply through Egypt, correct?
Yes, correct. There's another way, but it will cost a lot. Is that you apply for the tourist visa, like you buy a tour from a famous travel agent of Vietnam who is specialized in creating a tour from South Africa only or Africa only to Vietnam.
Right.
But you need to wait until they have the tour from your country to Vietnam. A big tour, and you need to pay a lot, like accommodations, tour fees, and other things to get just only 30 days visa, tourist
Okay.
visa, and currently there's no extension for tourist visa.
Right, so you'd have to leave anyway, which would put you right back in the same exact position that you're in. So,
Yeah.
guys, this is really, I'm not trying to discourage people. I just want you to know the reality of what you're getting yourselves into. So if you're sitting in some of these more difficult passport countries and you're thinking, man, I should just go over to Vietnam, I've got a little bit of reality for you. You're gonna need to be very careful who you try to get to employ you. You're gonna have next to no chance getting the application processed if you try to come as a tourist, unless you go through a very expensive and bureaucratic route. So guys, this is a tough time to come to Vietnam, even for native speakers, even for strong passports, even for people with a bit of money. So just wait it out, see what happens, and hopefully everything will get better in the future. You said before that in a few more months, things may relax a little bit. You think that that's a possibility, that in a few more months from now that there might be an easing of some of the enforcement of the policy?
To make a forecast, I think in the next few months, some agents could be able to operate again. Like if you are a trustworthy agent, the government could consider that you can offer your service and can come to submit the application. But I think it will be some requirements or some criteria that how can define a good travel agent. Second thing is about the policy with visa and resident card. I think they will just give you some relaxed time, but you still need to follow the law.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So things will calm down, guys, at some point. The dust will settle and we'll get a clear picture of what it actually looks like. But at the moment, this is what's possible. We can open a company for you. We can help you find a teaching job, which is, as long as you're pretty much a white native speaker, it's gonna be very fucking easy. Even if you're non-white, but you have a US passport or a passport from the UK, you may get a little bit more rejection, but you're still probably gonna get a job. But if you're a non-white, non-native speaker, you really would have to already be in Vietnam, or you're risking possibly someone doing something really devious to you. Maybe trying to set you up to, be in a bad situation or take your money. And again, even if you have a strong passport, you need to be careful. But if you have a weaker passport, you need to be very, very careful. So I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I love Vietnam. I hope people keep trying to come to Vietnam. And I hope that things, open up and relax, because I don't know if the chaos before was good, but at the same time being open is good. And I think it's a good thing for Vietnam, and I want that for them, and I think we can really contribute a lot with each other. Now, if you're working as a teacher and right now you're trying to get your work permit approved and it's taking 3 or 4 months.
The normal duration for the verifications and work permit issuance is just from 30 days up to 45 days. So if you wait months to month and there's no result, which means that your agents or your companies has a rejection, but they could not tell you this.
Yeah, they can't do it, or they haven't been able to do it yet.
Yes,
and
correct.
They're still trying.
Yes, because now everything is online, and for the application of work permit, we need to submit it through a website of the authorities, and on that website there will be a due date or the deadline, which means the latest day the government officer should answer about your application reject or not.
Okay.
So if it takes longer, which means that you have the rejection because you still not have no result. And this is also the KPIs from the government, is that within the exact days you need to solve the application from the enterprise.
So this is happening right now to a lot of people.
Yeah. So if you face with the issue, so please double check with your agents and your companies or your employer, and ask them to discuss openly about the situation that will not lead to the violation of immigration. Because if you overstaying or if you violate some things with the immigration, there's a very low chance that you can return Vietnam within 6 months.
It'll be a real pain in the ass, and like as of right now, he was saying it's getting almost impossible to get people off blacklists. Like it's Vietnam, so somewhere someone has someone they can pay. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be easy for you as an outsider to find that person, And there's a lot of people out there making big promises that they cannot fulfill. So guys, you have to understand, there's people who open up a visa service. They go down what's called a hem. A hem is like an alleyway.
Yeah.
And then they have sub-hems, and those usually will be like hem 4/246. So you can get a little space in that for like $50, $60 a month, and that's his office. And, people will offer you these services in Facebook groups. And, it's like, something visa, but you're not in Vietnam, so you can't see the difference between going into someone's office who has like a professional operation and a legal team versus going into one of these operations.
Yeah. Actually, now if you heard some promotions or some information from visa agents, you need to double check because most of the information from them now is not true. And from the government, everything is public, and it's very easy for you to search for the up-to-date information or regulation for the expat, how you can get a work permit, how you can apply for the business visa. So the agent now is just be able to assist you to have the most comfortable way to apply for the visa. Now they could not facilitate anything with the government officer as before to help you with the visa.
Right, so now they can put the paperwork together, but they want you to go in person and file it.
Yeah, yes, correct.
It's pretty wild, guys. I mean, like I said, it's Vietnam. There's always somebody out there who can get it done, but that person is becoming less and less and less. If I were to tell you how things were before the pandemic, you could easily be in Vietnam if you were an American paying $300 a year for a visa, the same as Cambodia. This is a completely different direction that they're going in.
Yeah.
And like he said, the previous administration had one way of governing, and the current administration has a different way of governing, and changes happen very quickly in Vietnam.
Yes, correct. So as before, you can easily do the visa run, but now visa run is also cost more, and it is even more dangerous that when you exit Vietnam and you could not be able to enter again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're thinning the herd. They don't want a lot of people just hanging out here. We're not going to read into why that is. That's whatever, right? But that's reality at the moment. So, if you think that you're just going to show up in Vietnam and, just be able to stay out here and just pick up and move, that means you really don't have any idea what's going on in the country right now. It's very difficult to get anything done right now. Not impossible. There's not going to lie to you. It's Vietnam. There's always somebody who can do something. Can you tell us a little bit about, for the English teachers and for people like that, what does the future look like? I learned this week that there's going to be a loophole to get around the no degree requirement for native speakers. So for example, right now, officially, a native speaker needs a degree.
Yes.
But that's not reality.
Actually, we talk again about what has been written in the law. And in the law saying that if you want to have the work permit, the minimal degree that you need to have is bachelor degree.
Okay.
Before, we can make another way is that you have the college degree, but you have more than 5 years of experience teaching in famous college or school, and then you will have experience letter to prove this, and they still consider to give you the work permit. But from now on, even the native speaker, they need to graduate from the university with the education or teaching bachelor degree and with at least 3 years of experience being an English teacher.
I just read from the Department of Education that is going to change soon, and there's going to be a way for people without degrees, but you're going to need to do an IELTS exam, and you're going to need to score above a certain point, because I think the point that the Education Department is having a hard time with is weeding out who actually is able to speak like a native speaker and who's not, because you might get people from other parts of Europe that they're white, so they get hired, but they don't necessarily have the English level.
Yeah, actually this is the sandbox created by the Ministry of Education, but when they build this sandbox, the draft regulation, they need to work with the Ministry of Labor again, because the laws on education is different with the law from the Labor Department.
Yes, right.
And two of the ministry need to work together to issue the same things. So I don't think this will happen in short period of time, maybe next year.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen this year. But it's good because at least I saw the memo and it's in Vietnamese and it's stamped, and I was like, okay, well, because that makes sense. Because if you make it too hard on the degree requirement, you won't get anybody.
Yes, yeah, correct.
There's only a handful of places here where if you're a licensed teacher that you would really want to apply, and that would be like British International School, the American School. An average public school in Ho Chi Minh City would have a very hard time getting someone who who has a degree in education. So this is good. This is a good sign, and you're hearing it from him directly that, you know, right now is a little crazy, but things are going to start to relax, and there's going to be, at least you're going to have a way to move forward, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be able to give them a clear path forward.
Yeah, correct.
All right, so let's summarize everything. Right now, getting anything done in immigration is tough.
Yes, correct.
Getting anything done in the labor department is tough.
Yes, correct too.
If your job is telling you that, oh, don't worry, we're still working on it, we're going to get your visa soon, they're lying and they can't get your visa.
Yes, so which means that if now you want to work with the agents, please take note of everything that they told you, and then please check with the information published by the government and ask the commitment from the agents for the timeline, how much time it will take that they will give you the result, and if there is some of the violation or some of the excuse from them, so you really need to consider about that agent and the service.
And guys, you have to understand, okay, so if you need help with this, you can reach out to me. I have very good agents. It's all part of my consulting service. We have very honest people who have not gotten in trouble throughout this whole situation. They're still doing their thing. But you need to remember, guys, that sometimes you're going to get hired by a job and it's not up to you who's going to process your application. It's going to be the HR department of that company, right?
Yes, correct.
So you may not even have control over the situation. It may be up to the company and who their HR person is that goes to immigration.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't have capital, you can still open a business.
Yes, there's some way. Also legal, that if you don't have enough capital, you can cooperate with someone to establish your company. And actually, it's depending on your situation and the capital you have. Then you send us a question, and based on this, we will find a ways that you can have your own company with the lowest cost.
Beautiful, and that is the best way to move forward now.
Yes, correct.
And if you do have capital, we can help with that also.
Yes, we have some funds that will help you from the beginnings for the capital transferring to establish a company. There is a lot of legal ways that you can get a visa to Vietnam. So the thing is that you just find trustworthy agents and you can openly discuss everything from your needs with that agent, and they will find you the solution.
So now you see this as almost the death of visa agents.
This is not a death but a new life. So which means that those untrustworthy will be swept away from the market. Only those which are trustworthy and has a long age company will be survive for this time.
Yeah, trustworthy.
Yeah, trustworthy.
Yeah, it's gonna be good for those few that are doing it.
Yeah, actually, for the trustworthy, you can look at the life of the company, like the longer age of a company, which means that they can survive and they
all
not
the changes.
Yeah, yes, correct.
Right. So that's who really's got the Quan Chi guys. That's who's got the clout, right? So you ain't around for 30 years if you are doing some clown shit in Vietnam, because sooner or later, they're just going to sweep it away, and then the next group will show up and sweep it away. And it's just the way things work here. Whenever somebody changes a rule, a million motherfuckers rush in trying to find a way to get around the rule.
Yeah.
This is just the way, and it's not just in Vietnam, it's the same in China and a lot of Southeast Asia. People always find a way forward. So I guess to summarize, I would say this. Vietnam is still a worthwhile destination. I still think it's great to live here. It's still very affordable. The people are great. My favorite food in Southeast Asia. If you've got a little bit of a capital, you can set up a company and just be out here. If you actually want to do something here, IT is an emerging market here. They're building a huge smart city right in District 2. They're turning it into like Two Duck City. And they're investing heavily in IT, and you have a highly educated workforce here that'll work for very inexpensively. I mean, Vietnam really is still a place that offers a lot of opportunity. There is no retirement visa, and there's no digital nomad visa. So if you want to stay here, opening a company is the way. If you just want to do some teaching and make money, Vietnam's still going to be good for that. And it sounds like there's still going to be a way for you to get in most cases. But there are some things that are going to change. And if you really love the country, you'll figure out a way to continue moving forward. And if you guys have any questions, you like this type of content, please leave us a comment. Please smash the like button. Please hit the subscribe button, share the video, help us get the truth out about what's really going on in the country and dispel all the bullshit you're hearing online. Thanks for watching. If you guys are interested in working with us for our consulting service, get me on the Facebook fan page or any of the contact information in the description below. And we'll set up a time to have a chat, and if everything works out, you'll be working with my partner in no time.
Yes. See you.
Bye, guys.
Brush your face and wash your teeth. teeth, son.
Yo, my man got me a job. Come to Vietnam.
Hey, what's up, guys? You thinking about coming to Vietnam? You're not sure where to start? You've heard a lot of things online. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's not. We offer a consulting service where we help you get on your feet in Vietnam. We give you advice on negotiating contracts with employers. We help you with real estate agents, visa agents that are reliable and that you can trust. And we help you get started in this amazing country and get on your feet. We help you get into different opportunities that might be more difficult for you if you were just landing in the country on your own. And we help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and problems that you could have as a newcomer here. We provide you with reliable job recruiters, visa agents, real estate agents, and advice. If you guys are thinking about coming to Vietnam, hit us up for a consultation. We'll help you get started, help you get on your feet, and hopefully you'll love Vietnam as much as we do.